podcast.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take some of the world's most profound source material and really just extract the essential knowledge you need to be well-informed. Today, we're starting with a puzzle that's, it's kind of timeless. Why does every major civilization, every religion need a guidebook? And maybe more importantly, how do these texts, with their huge claims to truth, even begin? So for this deep dive, we're focusing on the opening blueprint of the Quran, specifically the first 20 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, or the cow. And what's amazing is that this short section, it basically lays out the three psychological, maybe even existential groups of humanity.
Right. You have the willfully in denial, and then the ones who are sort of wavering in the middle.
Exactly.
And it's not just, a religious thing. You can see it as an early map of the human psyche. We're going to challenge that modern idea that all knowledge has to come from doubt and look at, an architecture for certainty.
And our mission here is to unpack this blueprint. We'll be using scholarly analysis, psychological insights, and even some connections to modern science. The goal is that by the time we're done, you, our listener, will have the tools to maybe see which of these three paths you're currently on. Okay, let's just jump in. The blueprint starts with a real paradox in verse 1.
It does. It's immediately confronting. It starts with just three disconnected letters. Aleph, Lam, Mim. These are known as the huruf muqatta'at.
The disconnected letters. So if a book is about to claim absolute clarity, why start with a riddle? That just seems counterintuitive.
And that paradox is the very first lesson. What's so fascinating here is that these letters, they serve a dual purpose, a dual cognitive function. First, they enforce humility.
Humility.
They're a signal that, look, while this book gives you everything you need for life, some universal truths, the core machinery of the cosmos, let's say, will always be a little beyond our full grasp.
Correct.
It just stops intellectual arrogance in its tracks.
So you're humbled before the guidance even starts. You mentioned a second function, though, the miracle aspect.
Exactly. The text is essentially claiming to be divine because these letters, which are just the basic building blocks of the Arabic language, nothing special, are arranged in a way that is completely inimitable.
Ah, so it's a challenge.
It's a quiet challenge. It's saying, here are your own letters. Go ahead, try to make something like this. It's a proof of its nature, right on page 1.
And then right after that riddle, you get this massive world-altering claim in verse 2. This is the book about which there is no doubt, a guide for the righteous. That right there is the anchor. How does that one claim of absolute certainty just challenge everything else we study?
It's revolutionary, really, because every single system humans have designed, philosophy, science, even something as solid as Einstein's theories, they're all built on a foundation of doubt.
Right. And probability.
And probability. Science only moves forward by questioning, by testing, by trying to disprove what came before. But the Quran comes in and claims absolute certainty. It says it doesn't need external proof.
So its proof is internal.
That's the idea. Mufti Muhammad Shafi, he really dug into this. He explained that the book's own internal consistency, its perfect balance, that serves as its own proof. It's offering a kind of intellectual anchor in a world that's just adrift in relativism.
But the verse qualifies it. It says it's a guide for al-mutakin, for the righteous. So this guidance, it's conditional. It only works if your mind is prepared for it.
Absolutely. It's not just handed out. It requires a certain internal state. Madudi defines this state, taqwa, as a conscious attitude. It's the person who realizes life is a test, who takes responsibility for their choices, and who's actively trying to avoid harmful paths.
They're primed for the truth.
They're primed for it. They're not just passively curious.
And that sets us up perfectly for the next few verses, which outline the identity of this successful group. Verses 3 to 5 lay out what you could call the three pillars of a successful life: a belief, discipline, and a social contract. Let's start with the first one, belief in the unseen, or kaib.
This is usually the big sticking point for a modern empirical thinker, right? They say, if I can't see it, if I can't measure it, I can't believe it.
Right.
But let's just connect it to the world they live in. We rely on unseen forces constantly. You don't see gravity, do you? You only see its effects. Yet we build entire skyscrapers based on total faith in its consistency.
That's a great point. Or even quantum physics.
Quantum physics is the perfect example. It deals with particles that you can't even observe directly. They just exist as clouds of probability. All of our technology, our computers, our phones, is built on a kind of unseen faith in these fundamental laws.
So the argument from the text is, if your entire technological world is built on faith in these unseen laws, Why would you hesitate to believe in the ultimate unseen forces, God, the soul, the afterlife, that are the source code for the entire universe?
Precisely. It suggests that acknowledging the ultimate Gabe isn't an abandonment of intellect, it's the completion of it.
Okay, so that's pillar one. What about pillar two, the establishment of prayer, ikamat salah? I think a lot of people just hear prayer and think of quiet reflection, but you're saying the real genius is in the ikamat, the structure, the establishment.
The structure is everything from a psychological standpoint. It's a highly developed discipline system. I mean, think about modern productivity gurus who teach habit formation.
Mm.
Here you have a system that forces you to take a cognitive break and reset your priorities 5 times a day. You stop everything, you reorganize your mind, you connect back to your ultimate purpose. It provides this incredible structure and mental peace.
It's like a mandatory recalibration.
It is. It prevents that mental drift and chaos that defines so much of modern life.
Which brings us to pillar three, the social contract, the flow of wealth, or infaq. And this is way more than just, simple charity.
Oh, absolutely. Amin Hassan Islahi really emphasized this. Infaq is a foundational economic principle. It's a social duty to keep wealth moving, to keep it in circulation.
To prevent it from stagnating.
And from concentrating in just a few hands, it completely reframes the idea of ownership. The message is that wealth isn't really yours. It's a stewardship. It's a tool you've been given to ensure the health of the entire community.
And when you put those three together, unseen belief, structured discipline, and social responsibility, the verses say the result is al-muflihun, ultimate, sustained success.
In this world and the next.
So that's the blueprint for one kind of mind. But now we have to look at the alternative. What happens to the mind that you deliberately chooses to stay unprepared? Let's talk about the second group in verses 6 and 7, al-kufar.
The word kafir is so important here. Its original meaning wasn't just unbelievers. It actually referred to a farmer who buries a seed, who conceals it.
So it's about hiding something.
It's about hiding something. Scholars like Wahiduddin Khan point out that the truth is often innate, it's available to our nature, but the individual makes a conscious choice to bury it, to suppress it.
So it's active denial, not just ignorance.
Exactly. And that leads to probably the most controversial part of this section. The verse says that God puts a seal, a khatam, on their hearts and on their hearing.
Right, which sounds predetermined. It sounds tyrannical even. How do we square that with free will?
That's the question, isn't it? And the seal is presented not as some arbitrary act, but as the natural consequence of repeated bad choices. It's a metaphysical law, like action and reaction. If you consistently refuse to look at reality, eventually you lose the ability to see it.
So it's a self-inflicted wound, a self-imposed incapacitation.
Yes. Think of it like this. If you keep your eyes shut tight against the sun day after day, eventually your muscles might seize up. You'd lose the actual capacity to see. The denial hardens the heart until the ability to accept truth is just gone. That is a terrifying state to be in.
And that takes us to the third group, which is arguably the most psychologically relevant group for today. The waverers, al-munafiqun, the hypocrites, from verse 8 all the way to 20. They haven't sealed their hearts, but they also refuse to commit.
And hypocrisy here is much deeper than just telling a lie. It's a chronic state of what you could call severe internal dissonance. They're not at peace. They claim faith with their words, maybe to fit in or gain some social security.
But they don't feel it inside.
They don't feel it, so they're maintaining this dual identity. And it forces them to live in a state of constant fear and insecurity. Their soul and their conscience are basically at war with each other.
And this crisis is visualized in two really intense analogies. The first one is the fire in verse 17. It says they're like someone who strikes a fire for light, but then God takes the light away, leaving them in darkness. So what is this temporary light they get?
That light is purely superficial. It's transactional. It might be social standing, a business advantage, a temporary feeling of peace when things are easy. They wanted the shine of faith for what it could get them.
Not the source of the light itself.
Exactly. So because their commitment is hollow, the moment a real sacrifice is required, that light just vanishes, and they're left in a much deeper darkness.
And then comes the second analogy, which is just incredible imagery, the storm and lightning. In verses 19 and 20, you have this image of intense darkness, thunder, flashes of lightning, and people sticking their fingers in their ears so they don't die.
It's a perfect metaphor for the existential dread that plagues the waverer. The storm is just life. The difficulties, the responsibilities, the fear of death, that baseline existential uncertainty we all feel.
Okay.
And the lightning is a flash of truth. It could be a personal crisis, a moment of clarity, a warning sign that forces them to confront their lack of real commitment.
And what do? They plug their ears.
It's the ultimate avoidance. They use that flash of light, the truth, only for a temporary worldly benefit, just to see where to take their next step. But when the immediate danger passes, they plug their ears again because they don't want to hear the thunder that comes with it.
The thunder being?
The demand for real commitment. The responsibility. They are terrified of it. So they live this half-hearted life, never committing to the power that created the storm in the first place.
And that last verse, verse 20, is just chilling. The lightning nearly snatches their sight. They walk when it flashes, but they freeze when it gets dark again. It really drives home how unstable that life of doubt is compared to the committed life.
And it brings it all back to that central theme of choice and consequence. The guide is there, the blueprint for certainty is offered, but human choice dictates everything. And that waverer, caught between the certainty of the righteous and the denial of the willfully blind, they suffer the worst psychological fate of all: perpetual fear and dissonance.
So we've explored the three paths laid out in this incredible opening blueprint. The certain, the mutakin, who embrace discipline and responsibility. The willfully blind, the kuffar, who choose denial until they can no longer see. And the wavering, the munafiqun, who are just perpetually caught in the storm.
This deep dive really shows that the very beginning of this text is, in a way, a map for achieving existential peace. And the question it leaves you with is, are you going to keep running from that storm of doubt, plugging your ears, and living with that internal dissonance? Or will you choose to embrace the stability and the sustained success that comes with certainty? That choice really dictates everything.
If this detailed analysis helped you find some clarity, please support our mission to make this knowledge accessible. Share this deep dive and check out more insightful content on Al-Hidayah podcast. Join us next time as we explore the signs of God in the universe, the very signs the Quran asks us to contemplate as further evidence for that certainty.
If this episode helped you understand the Quran better, please like the video, share it with others, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Al-Hidayah podcast for more thoughtful and meaningful discussions.